Thank you for joining me today for today's webinar, Reviewing Students' Work. Over the next 20 minutes or so, I'll be walking you through a brief overview of reviewing students' work. If you happen to have any questions throughout my session, please feel free to chat those into the Q&A box located at the bottom center of Zoom, and I will be sure to reserve some time at the end to address any and all questions. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So again, today what I'm going over is reviewing students' work. And that being said, we're going to spend most of our time in the Reports tab in the Teach Here. So as you can see here, going into the Reports tab, you then view these different reports up top. And mainly this is what I'm going to be going through. And if I have time, I will show you more down here as well. The first thing I want to show is all student scores. Many of you may be familiar with this, but just to go over it and maybe go through some things that you did not realize, I'm going to first do that by clicking into all student scores. And then it's going to pull up this here. What you can do if you want is pick here in the drop down to do it by section, or pick any certain students or any certain assignment types as seen here. But for this purpose of the demonstration, I'm just going to hit display student scores. By clicking that, what it is going to do is actually show all the different student scores and your different students in your class. So as you can see, you can easily review things here regarding kind of the overall view of how your students are doing within your course. So on the right hand side, students here who are in your class, and then you can see their final grade, their final letter grade, and so on. Over here is the different assignment groups that you have assigned and set up within your Hawks. And so you'll see how they're doing there as well. I can expand that by doing this, and you can see the individual tests or lessons as so. So again, this is just a good way if you want to quickly review how they're doing overall. But something you can also do is review how they're doing on a more detailed individual basis. So being said, I'm going to click on a student's name, and what that's going to do is take us to detailed student grades. I will then show you later how also to get to detailed student grades by just going through the Reports tab. So again, we clicked on a student's name, and here it shows a more in-depth view of the data behind their reports for the different things they have done. So for example, here's tests, and I have one test assigned to the student, and it shows that they did it on time. It shows the actual time they did it and the grade they got. So being said, if you are wondering maybe which students you want to review who didn't submit it on time, or you know you have a student who keeps falling behind in tests, this is a very great way to review that to see the individual detailed data behind it. Another thing here, as you can see, is you see lessons, and you can see the actual individual grades for each lesson, if they've done it past due or if they've completed it. You can see all that here as well. If I were to actually click in on this, what that's going to do is take me to Assignment Reviewer, but I will show you another way to get there as well. Going back to the Reports tab, I'm going to show you here detailed student grades. If you were to just click into this instead of going the route that we just took of all student scores and then clicking into their name, what you're going to see is this. All you have to do is type in the student that you're trying to find, and it will take you right back to this detailed page here, just as we saw before, where we can see all these different attempts and all the details behind it. Going back to the Reports tab, I'm going to quickly mention this search by criteria, just because it is helpful as well. If you're trying to look at different criteria that you just want to see specifically those students for, this is a perfect area for that. So for example, say you know some students are falling behind, you're not exactly sure, you haven't really heard from them, and you want to see and review the student scores for the ones who haven't logged in for a certain amount of days. That's one of the many things you can do here by just putting that in, and then you can actually display those students there. Going back, I'm going to go into this last one up top here, assignment reviewer. This is a very highly encouraged place to go to if you are trying to look at a detailed view on more of a per question basis or per assignment basis as to what is going on in the class. So here, for example, as you see, an assignment reviewer, there's this visual up top, and then down below, there's some statistics here. So I'm currently in lessons. You can switch between lessons and web tests by doing so. And you can also switch between your sections up here. So just some navigational things. So if I scroll down within lessons, what I see here is this very nice visual displaying what my students have actually done for these lessons. So for example, if you want to go in and review over all the different lessons, which ones maybe the students are having a little bit more trouble in versus which ones they're having an easier time in, this is a perfect place to do that. So as I see 3.1, all the students in my class have actually done it, and it seems to be good. That lesson was probably easier for them. But 1.1 here, I see that half of them did not complete it, or it was just overdue, done late. So that may indicate, maybe I should check that out. They may be struggling with that. It may have been a harder lesson. So if we scroll down, we can see the actual average amount of time that they spent in the different 3 categories offered to the students. So as you know, Learn being the virtual textbook, and then Practice, the practice for Certify, and Certify being the actual homework. The students may be not doing so well in the lessons because maybe they spend average amount of time very high in the Certify, but in the Practice and Learn, it may be lower. So this is a great way to check that. For example, again, 1.1 being our example of they may be struggling with it. If I were to look here and see that in Certify, the average amount of time was, say, 15 minutes, but then in Practice, the average amount of time was 4 minutes, that may be an indicator that, okay, I need to encourage my students to actually review and practice before jumping into Certify. Maybe it's not that the Certify is too hard for them, it's just that they're not practicing it. So that's a great way to be able to see that. I'm actually going to click into an assignment name here, and it's going to take us to the assignment results. So something else you can do is, again, say that 1.1 is the one that we're wanting to look at and review because we've noticed the students have been struggling. We can then see on a per student basis who maybe is struggling. So we see that all of these students here have completed it, but this first student here has not completed it and attempted it twice. Being said, that may be someone we want to look at and help encourage. And you can also see the amount of time spent here. So before, as I mentioned, it was the average amount of time. Now it is on the student basis, each amount of time that they spent. So by clicking a student's name, what you can actually do is review each Certify attempt. So being said, here we see that they did not master it, but they had 2 attempts and spent about a minute or 2 in each attempt. This may be an indicator that you want to review this lesson with them. You want to go over with them why they should spend a little bit more time, maybe trying to work on it instead of rushing through it. That could just be one of the many ways you interpret this. Another thing you can do to look a step further is to actually look at the per question basis, what is going on. So for example, when we clicked into the review, this assignment, we can see all the questions they got incorrect or the ones they also got correct. So it'll drop down, it's helpful so you can see and navigate through. And again, you can kind of just review the different things they got correct or incorrect. So it's very helpful if you're wanting to further be able to help your students and know what they're struggling on or what they're doing good on and encourage them to keep doing that. So I'm going to exit that overview and it just takes me back to here. I'm exiting out this tab to go back to these assignment results here. If I click into analytics under these assignment results, what it's going to do is show me on a per question basis, the questions within that lesson. And it's showing me the percent correct, how many got it incorrect, and the average amount of time spent on it. So maybe looking into this, we can kind of see that not many people got this first one correct, and we can see okay, this is the exact question there. And that may be a good place to go to if you want to bring that up in class as well, and put this on the board and walk through it with your students to see maybe why they are struggling with it. And that will just help improve the grades overall. So going back to assignment reviewer, I'm going to walk through the same thing that we just walked through, but let's look at the web test side of it. So very similar. I only have one web test in here, for example, but you may have different ones. Your final may be in here, different things like that. Again, you would have this visual that shows how many students did well and the different graph that popped up here, just like it did in lessons. And you can also see here the questions, the amount of points, how many submitted it, and then the average time spent and the score here. And again, what you can do is click into it just as we saw before, and you will be able to pop back up the students and the analytics tab here. So I'm going to start with students and just re-review what you can do. So again, you see the attempts, the submitted and the time. And if we click into a student, it actually pulls this up as well. So just like viewing the different assignments and viewing it on a per assignment basis where you can see the questions, you can do that here as well. So I'm going to hit review attempt. And what that's going to do is bring up the test, and you can actually see the different statistics based off of that. So as you see, here's the different questions, maybe why they struggled, why they didn't, how many they're correct for the different things, and just a nice data set here for you to see. Going back into the assignment results and the analytics here, just like before in the lessons, you can view all of this and you can click on it on a per question basis. So again, if you see, okay, on this test, everybody was getting this one incorrect, and it's something that I kind of want to go over before they move on to new chapters, you can see that here. So it's good review. Going back here, back to this reports tab, one of the other things I want to show you is web test summary by test. And you can see that here. What this does is just allows a more in-depth view of the different tests here. So I'm going to select a test. And you can see all your different students again and the scores. And I just wanted to show this because you can also look at a percent basis, a more points basis. You can see the individual test attempts and just this different data here that may help you when you're trying to review and find different ways to review things for your test. That being said, that was all that I was wanting to kind of show you so that you can see the better ways to review for either certify or tests. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A. I hope that this was helpful information to go through as you prepare for the new term. And I am reserving that little bit of time now if you have any questions, so feel free to chat those in that Q&A box. I do not see any questions coming through. So again, I want to thank you for your time. And I thank you for joining us today. If there are no questions, then everyone have a wonderful day.